So my next big project is going to be Outlander theme. So if you are a fan of Outlander, you're going to love my next project series. I am very excited about this. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've had on my Pinterest board, but I just never really got around to it until a bunch of things just kind of fell into place, and then I realized, oh, I guess we're doing this now. So I work at the Northeast Georgia History Center as the Director of Education there, and I also put on special educational and programming events that kind of falls under my jurisdiction, and it just so happened that a few things worked out to where Atlanta Historic Dance, which I am a member of, was having trouble finding a venue for their Outlander ball. And the History Center needed a fundraiser event. So we kind of partnered together to create the Fraser's Ridge Wedding Ball, because we didn't want to call it Outlander Ball because the History Center is not like a European castle or anything. So the ball is centered around the characters' time when they are in the Appalachian Mountain region, in very close to where I live. And the reason for the ball is going to be Brianna and Rodger's wedding. So basically you're coming to like a giant wedding celebration, and I thought, well, how fun would it be if we kicked off the ball with a wedding reenactment? And what if I am Brianna and my husband's Rodger, and we basically like do a vow renewal ceremony? Because I think that would be so much fun, and I've been wanting to make her wedding dress forever, and I've been really meaning to make Stephen a nice 18th century suit because he doesn't have one, and that's like one of the things that like he's missing from his wardrobe. So I'm just really excited to like actually make all of this. The only problem is time. So it is February 28th, and I need to have this done by March 30th. I know, it's a bit of a tight deadline, but I have faith in myself. I'm worried about all of the embroidery that this is going to need. Yeah, so I'm going to start with my outfit, because I have some pieces that I can fudge with Stephen's. Mine, like, I need the outfit, and also I need the embroidery done, and I can work on other things while the embroidery machine's going, so I might start working on Stephen's outfit while I'm still embroidering parts of mine. To make Brianna's outfit, I'm of course going to kind of go off of what they did in the TV show, but I'm going to make it more historically accurate. The costume in Outlander can be amazing, or can be like head scratchers when it comes to historical accuracy. I'm not sure like how they decide like, yeah, we're going to do like this really cool historically accurate thing, or like we're not going to care at all. I don't know. I want to think like two separate people do them, but I think it's all the same person. I've also looked up dresses that I'm like, that definitely is what inspired Brianna's wedding dress. And I will go into more detail about that in a second. So we'll be inspired by those dresses. And then I found the Amelia jacket pattern by Scroop and Virgil's Fine Goods, and it's perfect. I'm going to be doing view A here. I'm sorry, I'm going to be doing view B here. So I'm going to be doing view B of this, and it's perfect. It's perfect, and then I'm going to make a petticoat. Perfection, we're done. So I am very excited about this. I already have my fabric. I got it at Joann's, and I've also, of course, watched a bunch of videos about the design process and why they designed Brianna's wedding dress the way that they did. It's not white, it's like a buttermilk. I like how they say that. The fabric that I got at Joann's said it was tofu colored. Buttermilk would have been a much better descriptive color than tofu. Like, who wants tofu? Anyway, I need to start cutting out the pattern and the paper pattern, and then cut out the pattern and fabric, right, Lucky? Because like we have less than a month. Yeah, I know. Okay, great. Wish me luck. We'll see how much of the sewing I get done. Hopefully it'll be all of it. Hopefully.
I went to my local Joann store to see what type of fabric they had, and I found this cotton quilt backing on sale for 30% off, and I thought it was that perfect buttermilk color that they described Brianna's wedding dress as being. And yes, it is a cotton. So I decided to use a cotton for this project, and I'm basing my decision off of this historical dress that you see pictured here. This is a caraco and petticoat from 1789, and it is made out of cotton and then embroidered with grapevines. And I believe that this is one of the main inspirations that is of, you know, an actual historical dress that inspired Brianna's wedding dress. This dress is held at the Palais Guerrière, Musée de la Mode de la Ville de Paris. I am sorry if I butchered any of those. I did take French, but I was never good at pronunciation. I was told by my French teacher that I spoke French like a German. So as I mentioned, I am using the Scoops and Virgil Fine Goods pattern called the Amelia Jacket. If you buy this pattern off of their website, you have to print it. It is a downloadable version. I do not have a printer, but I figured out that Burnley and Trowbridge sells this pattern already printed. Is it more expensive? Yes, but it's less expensive than buying a printer and printer ink. So I did that. So this project is going to have a lot of embroidery in it, especially on the back skirt of the bodice. To do that, I lined up all of the back bodice pieces, one right after the other. You can see I just drew a line right around the hem where it's supposed to be, and then put little lines where each of the breaks of the different pattern pieces are. And then I left it in one big piece to embroider it. And this is historically how they would have done it. They would have embroidered the piece of fabric, and then they would have cut out the pattern piece. So I am doing a historically accurate technique, but I am using my embroidery machine, my Brother 1600 NE, and this is the embroidery pattern that I'm using. It is a combination of 3 preset designs that are already in my machine, and then I'm using 3 shades of green and 3 shades of purple to kind of recreate that thistle look, but it is indeed not a thistle, it is just a flower. As the embroidery machine is working on all of those lovely floral patterns for the back of the bodice, I am now turning my attention to all of the front bodice pieces and also lining pieces. Here I am working on the front bodice piece. Well, I thought I was going to make pattern or view B of the pattern, but then I decided actually to use view A, because if you look at our reference dress, as you can see here, it has that diagonal look to it for the embroidery, but it doesn't actually have 2 pieces. So I decided it would be easier just to have one piece and do that diagonal embroidery across the front, hence my decision that you can see here. It looked really, really pretty. I liked it a lot. That's what I did. But I did use the view B of the pattern to help me get that line perfectly diagonally across the bodice. I'm now going ahead and attaching the shoulder straps to the front bodice piece, as the embroidery for the back bodice is just finishing up. To get the right curve going up the skirt of the bodice, I had to use a smaller embroidery frame, but I was very happy with how it all turned out, because I wanted it to look very connected to the side bodice, and then from the side bodice piece all the way to the front bodice piece, which you just saw me embroider and work on. As you can see, I traced out the back bodice pieces, and I left the skirt connected, but I'm cutting out the top of the bodice pieces, and then I did that for 3 of them, and then I forgot that, wait, I could just leave the skirt attached and then I wouldn't have to put seams in it, but I forgot that for the first one. Anyway, I realized my mistake here, and then I just flopped it over, so I didn't even have to trace out the patterns. I could just use the ones that I already had traced. And then I decided, because I did cut out the side one, I will cut that one so that there are matching seams. But otherwise, I'm not going to put any seams in the back. I am going to make that one giant pattern piece with some weird things sticking out of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach the center back and then the side back here. I think I'm brilliant. I think it worked out great. It is not what the pattern said to do, The Amelia jacket pattern comes with fantastic instructions for how to do everything in a historically accurate method. And as you can see, I am using a sewing machine because I do not have time to hand sew everything. I am going to hand sew some things because I like the look, especially for things that you can see on the outside that'll be finished, but you will not be able to see these seams at all. Now, am I using a historical construction method either because that would essentially require hand sewing? No, I'm also not doing that. So here is my modern construction method of the Amelia jacket pattern. Now, as I said, I kind of accidentally cut out the side pieces here before I realized, oh dang, I could have just left that attached like I did for the other pieces. But alas, I did not do that, so there will be at least one seam. Well, so there will be 2 seams on the back skirt, but it will be okay. So here I am attaching those, pinning that together, and then sewing it together. And then I actually have the back of the bodice complete. Now it is time to attach the front bodice pieces to the back bodice pieces and also the side bodice piece. So there is a side bodice piece which I went ahead and attached. So here I am, I pinned those 2 side seams on, and then we sewed it with the sewing machine. We're going to press everything nice and flat before we attach the lining and make sure all of the embroidery is also laying really well. Sometimes it puckers every once in a while, but giving it a nice flat press helps. Here we have the bodice lining pieces, the front, side, and back. The back does not have as many sections as the outer back does. So it's a little bit simpler to just go ahead and put this all together at one time. I am just stacking this like an assembly line. I am just going to pin, and then sew. So I have all of this together, and then I'll be able to attach it to the outer bodice. To attach the bodice lining to the outer bodice, I pinned all the way around the edges, all the way across the top, all the way down the front center, and also around the bottom of the front bodice pieces, and I only left the back center parts undone because that is where I am going to right side it out. And then also where I'll have to do some hand finishing because the back peplum is not lined.
So I just got the bodice to a kind of wearable state, and this is the first time I am going to even kind of get to try it on. So hopefully it fits. That's number 1 goal. And then hopefully I like it. Just number 2 goal, almost as important as number 1. Just using a t-shirt as a shift right now. Alright. Good. Good. Very good. Alright. I will accept this as fitting, I think. Right now it's gaping a little bit at the front. But I think once I have my stays on, this is not going to be an issue. But otherwise it feels like it fits very well. And then that little issue will be taken care of once I'm wearing stays and all of my right underpinnings. The back feels like it's situated very well. It does feel like it's kind of like pulling me backwards, which a lot of 18th century outfits do, because they're just like, they want you to stand up straight. They expect you to wear your stays. So there is just that, but I've just kind of noticed that that's just like a thing with 18th century garments and even some early 19th century. But anyway, I think we're doing good. Happy so far. Now I'm going to turn it back right side out, trim all the little seams that I need to press it, and then we'll add sleeves.
Now that we have the main body of the bodice together, it's time to go ahead and add some sleeves. So there are a couple options that you can do for sleeves. You can do a 3/4 length sleeve or one that goes all the way down to the wrist, because we are making a historically accurate version of Brianna's wedding dress from the series Outlander from season 5. We are going to be using the long sleeves because Brianna's wedding dress indeed has long sleeves. This historical reasoning also fits in with our historical example, the grapevine dress from France, which also indeed has long sleeves. The sleeves were 2-piece coat sleeves, so there will be 2 seams. There will be the top and the bottom. I have gone ahead and I have sewn those together, and then I am going to go ahead and insert them into the armholes for the bodice. The sleeves did not require any gathering, but there will be a couple of small pleats that I will use to ease in the sleeve into the arm side. The pleats will be very much on the top back of the shoulder, and 18th century sleeves are, I think, hard because they are supposed to just fit, and then you can do like a couple small pleats, but sometimes you want to make sure they look really good. I think that these sleeves turned out pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with how they got set. Now here I am hand finishing the back of the bodice. I have flipped under the lining to give it a nice hem, and then I am also at the same time kind of sewing down the pleats so that they stay where they're supposed to on the bodice. All right, time for a hot cocoa break, and then back to the drawing board. Originally, when you look at the timeline for the Outlander books, Brianna and Rodger get married in the 1770s, but the style of this dress is really 1780s, and therefore I wanted to have a false rump that went all the way around and not a split false rump, because I want to make sure that the pleats and the gathers and the peplum that I worked so hard on the bodice just doesn't sink down into a hole. I want to make sure it stands out and it looks really nice. Brianna's dress also has embroidery on the skirt right below the knee, so I realized for me that would be 31 inches down from my waist. So I marked a dashed line at 31 inches across the front, and I also think I ended up doing a 31 or 32 across the back. It was very, very similar, even with the false rump, because it just kind of holds the dress out. It didn't provide a whole lot more natural poof at the back to where it wasn't going to be a whole inch or something off of this. Now, this is where Lucky, who already had a bit of an interest in the embroidery machine, lost her mind, because she started to have a tent at the embroidery machine that moved, and it was the best thing ever. And the entire time I was embroidering the skirt, if I didn't know where Lucky was, she was guarding the skirt and in her little tent, and it was so cute. So please enjoy this montage of Lucky enjoying probably one of her favorite aspects of sewing a project to date. Lucky also thinks that the tape measure is a toy that is to be chased, and or she thinks she's helping me measure the skirt here. I'm not completely sure which one, because well, hello, did you have something you wanted to say? For the waist treatment of this skirt, I did knife pleats starting with a box pleat in the center front. For the front of the petticoat, the box pleat faces outward, and for the back of the petticoat, the box pleat faces inward. So then you're able to tell which way is the front and which way is the back when you're putting it on. So here I am just doing those knife pleats. I usually use my fingers and what knuckles the fabric comes up to measure, because I know where on my knuckles in inches. So that is how I am very scientifically measuring all of my knife pleats here, and then having to readjust just a wee bit. Here I am doing the same thing, but I am pleating the back of the petticoat. The box pleat faces inward, and then the knife pleats go directional to that. I had some woven tape in my stash that I am going to use to bind the top of the petticoat and act as my ties that'll tie the petticoat together around my waist. I cut the tapes at about 60 inches, which is a little bit more than double what the circumference of my petticoat is going to be. I attached the woven tapes that would become my waistband by hand using a hem stitch. I then attached the front of the skirt to the back of the skirt. I made sure that there was about a 10-inch gap between the side seam of the skirt and the waistband, because that would be where my pocket is going to go. And I want to make sure I can reach my pockets. And then I sewed that with a machine. Now we are finally at the last aspect of this dress. And yes, it still involves more embroidery. That is the fichu that Brianna wears with her wedding dress. And I do not have a pattern for this, but I do have a beautiful fichu from Burnley and Trowbridge. I went ahead and used that as my basis for this fichu because I liked the size of it, and I tried it on with the dress, thought it'd be great. I made sure there was a little extra gap to where I was going to be able to embroider this on the edge, and then I went back and chopped off some of that fabric because I don't want to hem. That would be a really thick hem if I rolled all of that fabric into a hem there. So I left a little bit of extra fabric to make sure it fit in my embroidery hoop, but then it's going to go away. Chop, chop. I then pinned a rolled hem on the fichu, and I decided that I was going to hem this by hand because this is going to be one of the hems that you really see. It's going to be front and center on the dress. I also believe that I hemmed the bottom of the petticoat by hand as well. So this was going to be my last finishing details that I barely had time for. I hemmed everywhere. I hemmed in my sewing room. I hemmed while riding in the car. I hemmed while I was at a St. Patrick's Day party. I just needed to get this done. And I did indeed get this done in time for the ball, and I even had time to make my husband a suit jacket to look like Rodger's suit as well from the wedding. I am so excited to show you more details of this coming soon and more videos to come, so please go ahead and subscribe, hit that like button, ring that bell, and become a member of the Historical Belle Society on Patreon if you have not already. Thank you to all of my society members. You make videos like this possible, and your support means so much to me. Until next time, happy sewing!